Right. So now, if I'm an enterprise, if I'm a bank, right, or a large enterprise, chances are I'm in, vendor relationships with, a MuleSoft, an Apigee, a Kong, Amazon gateway, maybe some other proprietary and open source gateway. So it's one thing to have metrics and measurements at those levels, but there is no overarching layer that can then be the metrics and the measurement for the API of all APIs, and including public APIs and other APIs that are not within those little halos of those other vendors.
No, and that's one of the challenges people are seeing, that they'll the gateway logs, and some of the gateway vendors are better at recognizing this than others, but there is a reliance on the gateway being the single source of truth. The gateway is only the source of truth as to what goes through the gateway. And if we look at banking, which is an interesting example, I like to use the phrase computational archaeology. If you're dealing with a bank, say an old established British bank, they will have IT infrastructure that's still running, that was probably put in place when I was at primary school. That there will be a mainframe that they bought in the early 70s or even in the 60s, when I was not even born, I hasten to say. But they will have something running, something that will be connected via a chain of internal systems, eventually arriving at a MuleSoft or an Apigee that serves the JSON through a REST API. And what we see time and time again for the banks is the gateway ignores 400 errors because they're nothing to do with it. But they go all the way out to an application and just say, nope, that service isn't available. And there's nothing in the DevOps chain between that 1973 IBM mainframe and somebody's app on their iPhone in 2021 that actually is picking up that that's gone wrong. And that we see this, we actually see it over and over again with customers where they just don't realize that a service has been taken down, and they've tuned out the errors because they're always someone else's problem. And we want a holistic view of these DevOps chains to exist, because at some point somebody has to actually sign up for this stuff and put their name against it. But also, if they're connecting to these third-party services, if Bank X is down and you have a banking aggregation service and you're trying to transfer account data, and your logo is on an app, they don't care that the other bank is down. They see your logo. And that is something I think people are only just waking up to now, 3-4 years into mass API adoption and banking. This isn't just about, are we up or not? It's about, what is the impact on your brand? Can you defend yourself against lawsuits to regulators? Do you actually know what's going on that could impact your users? And I think what I'm trying to figure out, and this is a question I wanted to ask you, is what do we call the people who are the consumers of the APIs, but not just the person on the end of the iPhone, the CISO, the CIO, the open banking manager, or the open healthcare manager inside a large hospital network? What do we call them? We've got lots of solutions for developers, but we don't have a good, we can say that Postman is the solution place that developers should be. But what about the people the developers are building for? What do we call them? And I'm not sure we have a good answer for that, and I'd love to hear one.
Yeah, I don't have an answer either, because it's so funny. We all talk about the business of APIs and APIs becoming a quote unquote business conversation, and we talk about design first and having a functionally driven design scope to APIs. But yeah, that's where we stop. We kind of say, okay, let's design our APIs with the business in mind, and then we fall off a cliff and we hand it over to the technical and the developers and people that are using Postman and whatnot. You're right. There is no coming back home and saying, okay, so this is what we're designed for you. Now here is your informed dashboard and insight place. I have not seen anything that can bubble it up. Like, I could just imagine if Plaid, which is aggregating a bunch of banks' APIs, if they could provide architects and business owners within the banks an API dashboard for them, That'll be very interesting, and I haven't seen that. So yeah.
So that is so to close the loop. That's where that's where we've ended up, and that's what we're building, and that's what we're releasing this month. Because the Plaids of the world and others, even the banks, if the banks work with a bunch of payment service providers, they want to know that the service is going to work when they batch a process and attach the APIs. And at the moment, they don't really know that for sure. Sure, you can go to a status page, but actually status page is not always true. It's what you're reporting is not actually based on, yes, 30 seconds ago, a call completed and this API worked from AWS Frankfurt where you're based. And that's actually what somebody who has a solution talking to a major bank wants to know. They don't want to know that there are no reported incidents. They want to know that if they serve a batch of 100,000 API calls in 1 minute's time, will they execute and will they complete? Because is the service responding to our data center? And what we're doing is we're exposing new levels of dashboards and new data that everybody can share and have transparent visibility on. And that's what I think the industries need is open, honest, transparent data on how services work that everybody can agree is, yeah, that's what it looks like, rather than what we have at the moment, which is engineering pass, devs pass to DevOps, and DevOps look at what they can provide, and they provide what they can provide, not what they should measure.
Yeah.